Well, then, moving along to follow up on a similar situation that happened over in Nebraska. This AP story states that thousands of Nebraskans with felony convictions could be denied the right to vote under an opinion from the state attorney general released Wednesday that says a law passed earlier this year restoring the voting rights of people convicted of felonies violates the Nebraska Constitution. What is this about?
Well, this is Nebraska Attorney General Mike Hilgers, who said in an opinion that the law immediately restore the voting rights of people who finish serving their felony convictions violates the state constitution, separation of powers. Hilgers says that only the State Board of Pardons can restore the voting rights of people with felony convictions through a pardon.
The story states that pardons are exceedingly rare to come by in Nebraska, which requires those convicted of felonies to wait 10 years after their term to even file an application for a pardon. Hilger's opinion was issued 2 days before the new voting rights restoration law was set to take effect. The American Civil Liberties Union of Nebraska said the opinion and efforts to block those with felony convictions from registering to vote could keep only 7,000. Because, only 8,000 people live there, but 7,000 Nebraskan residents from voting in November.
Yeah, well, the ACLU is nothing but a bunch of leftist communist agitators, and they want to destroy this country. And can you not admit that?
Clearly, that's in their mission statement. You got to go hit on the About page, and then there's a little tiny dot that you have to click on their page that will open up the real agenda, right?
That's right. And
Okay.
What's humorous to me is very few PFRs support the ACLU, but it's the first organization that they call out for not doing enough on the PFR issue. And I'm saying, well, wait a minute. They run a business. They have to have revenue. They survive on membership dues, legal winnings from being prevailing party in cases. And you don't support them, but yet you resoundingly criticize them and you say that they're out to destroy the country and all this stuff. Well, if PFRs made up a significant amount of the ACLU membership, and when they send out their little surveys asking what their priorities should be, you'd be able to list PFR stuff in there. But PFRs don't join the ACLU because they're a bunch of liberal leftist communists.
There was the ACLU attorney there. I don't remember I don't remember if she was from Atlanta at the conference. Where was she from? She was from Atlanta?
No, she was not from Atlanta. You talking about Kim Budden?
Yes. So between one of the sessions or whatever, I ran into her and I asked her, I was like, so I'm just curious. I have heard basically what you just described is that you only have so much time and attorneys and all that stuff. And she's like, we've got people that can't vote. We've got all kinds of other civil liberty violations going on by large swaths of the population. And while maybe they would be interested in taking up PFR issues, they just have these other things that are more pressing and certainly, as you just said, of more interest to the donors.
Correct.
Anyway, I'm just saying that to confirm basically what you just said. So moving along, A.G. Hilgers also found unconstitutional a 2005 law that restored the voting rights of people with felony convictions 2 years after they had finished all of the terms of their sentences. The opinion was sought by Republican Nebraska Secretary of State Bob Evans. Hilgers, also a Republican and a former Speaker of the Legislature, had been critical of the most recently passed law and also has Republican Governor Jim Pillen and some Republican lawmakers.
Well, I want to just clarify now. Officially, the Nebraska legislature is nonpartisan, but most people know the party affiliation of the people, and that name of the Secretary of State. I've cut it from the decision, the EVNEN. It seems like a weird name, but that was the way it was in the article. So it may or may not be the Nebraska Secretary of State correct name. But we have a fabulous transcriptionist, and the transcriptionist will fix it.
I'm looking it up because I can't imagine that it's really EVN. Of course, I got all the other information other than the person's name. All right, we'll move along though. So I can't help but note that Evnen, God, is that really what it is? Evnen? Hilgers and Pillen make up the 3-member Board of Pardons. Since they are all in opposition, that means virtually no pardons will be granted.
That's pretty funny. I mean, that's quite an astute observation. The story states, based on the opinion, Secretary of State Evnen issued a statement late Wednesday afternoon saying he has begun directing county election officials to stop registering people convicted of felonies who have not been pardoned by the Nebraska Board of Pardons. Now remember, the three people that are in staunch opposition to it make up that board. Evnen said he does not intend to remove from the voter rolls those with felony convictions who were already registered to vote, but he plans to also to request the next pardon board's meeting in August that those with felony convictions who were registered to vote in the 2-year waiting period be allowed to stay on the rolls and vote. You know, this kind of reminds me of the AG's opinion in Wisconsin dealing with the GPS tracking for life and about whether you had more than one conviction. And the AG interpreted it. His opinion said that it was it had to be it could be two separate events within the same case. And then the Supreme Court of Wisconsin said, no, this reminds me of that situation completely.
Is the AG's opinion binding?
No, it's not binding, but it's persuasive because an elected official asked the Attorney General for an opinion. And, you know, like last week when I sarcastically said, who the hell would you refer the delegation of the registration question of retroactivity to, the Department of Justice or to the Department of Agriculture? Well, this is who you would go to. You would go to your state's Attorney General and you would ask for an opinion if there's some ambiguity about whether it's constitutional, if you have some doubts. So, but based on the opinion, Secretary of State Evnen issued a statement late Wednesday afternoon. Oh, I've already done that, so go on.
AG Hilgers' latest opinion comes less than 4 months before a hotly contested presidential election in a state that allows its presidential electoral votes to be split. Nebraska's electoral votes tied to its 3 congressional districts go to whichever candidate wins the popular vote in that district. The state's Omaha-centered 2nd District has twice awarded its electoral vote to Democratic presidential candidates, once to Barack Obama in 2008 and again to Joe Biden in 2020. Do you think that this was politically motivated?
I have no way of knowing that. It's certainly a possibility. But I'm one of those, I like to hold out for evidence. When you start imputing sinister motivations without any evidence, it bothers me. But the Nebraska Voting Rights Restoration Coalition berated the opinion and Evnen's order to stop registering those convicted of felonies and said it's considering all options for immediate relief. Quote, "We cannot allow this decision to stand unchallenged," the group said in a statement. "We stand with voters who have served their time and deserve to participate fully in our democracy."
Evnen's office was asked to respond to criticism that the opinion and his order to stop registering people convicted of felonies seemed geared to disenfranchisement, a segment of voters only months ahead of a tight election. Evnen spokesperson Jackie Orada replied, "Secretary Evnen believes this opinion isn't geared to do anything other than follow the Nebraska Constitution." Well, Larry, what happens next then?
I don't see any recourse in litigation here. I mean, first of all, you got to overcome standing, and I guess the people that are not being allowed to register to vote would have that standing, but you got to have somebody with standing to file something. Where are you going to file? What are you going to style the action, the cause of action? Don't have a lot of time between now and election day to really do much in the court system that I'm aware of. So, other than recognizing that elections have consequences, folks in Nebraska, you have elected these 3 people to these statewide offices. If this is not what you want, when you sent your 49 senators to the unicameral, if you wanted felons who've served their time to be able to vote, then you need to communicate that clearly to these elected officials, to your Attorney General, to your Secretary of State, and to Governor Pillen. You need to make it clear that that is what you want, and that you will remember that when they're facing you for election and requesting their vote again, if this is what you wanted. Otherwise, there's nothing that I can think of that's really effective that can be done in such a short amount of time.
Do either of you guys see a trend here? Do you see that?
Well, I've tried to bring this trend up before, Chance, and Larry always kind of squashes when I point something out.
Yeah, you got Mississippi, you got Nebraska. In Mississippi, Constitution can't fix it. In Nebraska, the legislature can't fix it. Okay, it's the Constitution. It's the legislature. What it is a trend to disenfranchise folks. And that's what I was talking about before. And it really is a disgraceful way of doing things. It's just ugly.
So,
let me ask you this though. Oh God, what was my thought? I wanted to point out that a particular patron who I speak to quite frequently, we text back and forth because he lives a million miles away, but he the last time, Larry, you brought up the elections have consequences episode, I got trashed by him a lot. He was really angry. He's like, I effing know. He doesn't say that, but he said, I understand that elections have consequences. However, I live in a state where I can't vote. So what am I supposed to do? So he was angry for us pointing out and rubbing his nose in the fact that elections have consequences.
well, I will continue to do that because a lot of the problems we face are because of poor choices we're making as voters. So if you don't like it, make different choices.
But in the case of a person that can't vote, what choices can he make?
He can make choices to go out and help candidates he supports that are in alignment with his views to win. He can knock on doors. He can make phone calls. He can place literature out for them. He can make cash donations to their campaign. He can do a whole lot of things.
Can I send him your way for him to beat down your door for this?
Sure.
You've met him.
You've been listening to FYP.